Hey, so all kinds of stuff. First, last night, I actually had a good night at work. It was probably one of my top three shifts in terms of just enjoying the whole process. What made it nice? Well, one, we had 8 people on shift, not including leads. That's a lot. Sometimes it's just three. When it's just three, there's a lot to do. And as the proverb or saying or aphorism or whatever it is goes, many hands make light work. But there was enough work that we were busy pretty much the whole night, but it was stuff that I knew how to do. So much of the frustration of this job is that there's a lot to learn. I haven't been doing it very long and I forget stuff, or there's just, things I just haven't been introduced to, and the training here is pretty fluid. I'll say that, pretty organic, not very systematized, and certainly no mental effort has been expended, thinking about different learning styles. There's the learning style that you get, that is assumed, and if you don't have it, well, tough. So, I've been doing this for a couple months now. I finally got, kind of a handle on what needs to be done. And so last night we're out on a run that I've been working for many days in a row. I'm quite familiar with what's there. I know what needs to be done. And we had lots of people doing it. So, one, the feeling of competence feels good. Two, there's a lot of people, so there wasn't all that much work to do. Three, there was enough to keep us busy because long periods of downtime at work, I know this is a very unpopular sentiment among the snowmakers, but they just drag for me. I would much rather be out on the mountain, um, even if we're struggling with something, even if we're just unburying some buried piece of equipment, which is, very physical work and also mindless, but from my perspective, it beats sitting down in primary just staring at my phone. The time just goes faster. That's the only consideration for me. Uh, what else made it nice? At the end, we got a taco dinner. There's a huge grill in primary, and they bought like 16 pounds of meat and then lots of cheese and tortillas. And yeah, we had a nice convivial dual shift dinner, which means, the swing shift ends at midnight. That's when the graveyard shift comes in. So, we had this overlapping of shifts meal. And, it's in this crowded, dirty, cluttered space. And I ate my tacos standing up off a paper plate, but it was glorious. So that was nice. And also, my knees hurt, particularly my right knee, and there are times when I put weight down on it wrong when it's fire. But my lungs and my heart are doing pretty well. I mean, I am not getting winded and discombobulated like I did when I first got here, even up on the summit. Even working hard, like pulling big guns through deep snow, post holing half the way. I'm still not, huffing and puffing like I was when I first got here. So the I've I think pushed past the COVID, blockade and gotten into fresh physical fitness territory, which feels good. So all kinds of stuff coming together, at least last night. Now I'm probably jinxing myself by telling you about it. Tonight will be everything that can go wrong does go wrong, sort of thing. But so it goes. So I'm out here as usual by the lake, and this is the middle-aged women with their dogs hour. Just down that way, I can see just one, two, three, four, 5 dogs, and I'm not even looking around. They're just in a cluster. Taking the dog pill, it's a pill I would love to take. It's just I don't have a stable situation. I don't have a stable living situation. I don't know where I'm going to be. Don't know if I'll be, in an apartment or a house, a tent or whatever. Just much as I would, I crave canine company. It seems like it's still not the time. What else? I listened to a 1 hour conversation this morning between Niall Ferguson, or Neil Ferguson. It looks like it should be pronounced Niall, but it's really Neil. He's a famous academic, and I listened to an audio book of his a couple of years back called Doom, The Politics of Catastrophe. And I have to say, I don't remember a damn thing from that book. I really need to revisit it. And he was interviewing a former student of his, I mean, former for many, many years back. The guy is now a respected academic and author of many books. And I can't bring his name to mind right now, but he's the author of a book called Chip War. And it is about the competition, and one could even say the Cold War between the U.S. and China over semiconductors and chip manufacturing and design and that sort of thing. And his larger point, I guess, I mean, he had many points, and part of the book is just, retracing the history of the semiconductor manufacturing industry, which I know to some people sounds incredibly boring, but which would be of great interest to me. And he seems like a more sober, sort of less ideologically driven narrator than, say, Yasha Levine, who wrote Surveillance Valley. But, he agrees with Levine that the military-industrial complex was a key ingredient in the foundation of Silicon Valley, and the Cold War, and particularly the need to miniaturize computers to put them on missiles to deliver nuclear warheads to the Soviet Union, was a driving factor in the miniaturization of semiconductors and integrated circuits. But then, the big wigs in Silicon Valley, they wanted to get out from under the thumb of the military as quickly as possible and expand into civilian applications for computing technology. And that's that's the last 50 years. That's basically my life. But yeah, of course, lots of talk about how reliant the entire world is on a single chip manufacturing facility. The TSMC, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Corporation's plant in Taipei. And the question was, could China invade and just capture it and dominate? And his answer was no. One, like a Normandy style land invasion of an island nation like that, very hard to do. Very, very hard to do. And two, you can't just roll up and grab the plant and say, okay, now you make chips for us. That requires the willing cooperation of, most of the people who work there, who, many of them would be fleeing as the Chinese were invading. And those who stayed behind, many of them would be saboteurs. Many of them would feign ignorance or just play dumb. It's this is from a different book, and this is a different author's analogy. I don't remember the book, but, you can, in pre-industrial times, if there was a gold mine someplace that your rival controlled, you could take your soldiers, seize that area, and the gold mine is yours, and the gold that comes out of it is yours. But you can't do that to Silicon Valley. The wealth there is in the knowledge, it's in the organizational structures, it's in the institutions, and it's in the people. None of which are, inert, tangible objects like lumps of gold in the ground. So yeah, the style, the military style of just roll in and grab what you want. If what you want is a culture, if what you want is a system of relationships, if what you want is a knowledge base, it's just not like that. You just can't do that. So anyway, I listened to this 1 hour conversation and I recommend it. It's pretty good. In consideration, like I've got a couple Audible credits stored up and I was thinking, what am I going to listen to next? And right now, the answer is possibly nothing. I don't have a whole lot of time, although we are working more 8-hour shifts these days, which is very nice. But I don't have a lot of time, and what time I do have is taken up with journaling and studying Spanish. Here's I don't know if it's an interesting phenomenon. It's a phenomenon. I'll point it out. It's a new development in my living situation. The three guys who are in this small space together, we're not angry at each other. There wasn't like a fight or anything, but we've largely stopped talking to each other and everybody has just retreated into their electronic connection to the hive mind. I've got these earbuds in right now. Oh, I hope that this mic is paired. Let's see. It must be. Anyway, I have these earbuds in almost all the time. I'm almost always listening to something. My younger roommate watches a lot of YouTube. And some of it is stuff that I'm interested in, and some of it is stuff I just don't connect with. And then the other roommate, as I've said before, watches a lot of local news, although I have to say, he's stopped doing that in recent days. So, an improvement. An improvement. But yeah, we are all physically together almost all the time, and we work together. So it's not like we're only in this space together and having to get along, all the time at home, but at work as well. And so, I guess it's a coping mechanism, or it's just a stable strategy that we've adopted, is minimal communication. Don't talk to each other. Even though we're in a very small space, we're walking around each other. We're having to stop and back up so, one person can exit the kitchen while the other is waiting to enter, that sort of thing, but with no words exchanged. I'm smiling as I say it. It's kind of sad. It's kind of, it seems sort of dysfunctional from the outset, but it's also kind of the safe and sustainable way to go. Because we can't be mad at each other, not in that small space. That would just make life miserable. Better just to create these little bubbles of not privacy, because there is no privacy, but isolation, like no communication. Seems to be the more workable situation, or approach to the less than ideal living situation. All right, I could respond to comments. I, I mentioned in a previous video that just to maintain my continuous meditation streak, how many days in a row I've meditated, on a couple of occasions I've cranked the time down to just 5 minutes, and I've done it at work, on a break, just sitting in primary, which is not a quiet or private space, with people all around me, conversations going, music playing. And I just sit there, and, it's not that I'm tuning it all out. I can hear it all, but I'm just, I'm getting that number. I'm preserving the streak. I'm preserving that, that counter on the app. And somebody wrote to say, yeah, I've done that as well. And I also mentioned, the possibility of just turning on the meditation and setting the phone down and not even participating, not even listening to it. And the person who was commenting, who's somebody I've known since high school, said, that feels like cheating. And I will say that absolutely is cheating. I've mentioned, I mentioned that I thought about doing that, but I haven't actually done that. That would certainly be cheating. But before I left, I have two meditation apps on my phone. I've got the Headspace app, and then I've got the Waking Up app, which, is by the hated by many leftists, Sam Harris. I don't ever really use the Sam Harris one, largely because it's more challenging. It's more difficult. It's more varied. Whereas the Headspace daily meditation is very formulaic, very, I'm never surprised by it. Sometimes I'm surprised by interesting thoughts or sensations or, effects of the meditation, but I'm never surprised by the content of the meditation, which is definitely not the case with the Sam Harris app. But the Sam Harris app, just before I left, to come here to California, they discontinued the keeping of a streak count. If you meditate 500 days in a row, suppose you meditated 499 days in a row, and day 500 comes around, and that's the day that they decided, nope, we're eliminating that feature. Why did they eliminate it? Because people got fixated on that number. And they used it as a point of pride, as a point of achievement, as an ego boost, and basically as something which is working counter to the larger goals of mindfulness, and the larger goals of the app. But anyway, I am looking at the number. It is important to me that I not miss a day, because the breaking of my meditation practice was one of the key components in placing me in the perfect position to be utterly devastated by, the event, which I need not mention. It has been mentioned often enough. All right. So on that happy note, as always, I invite your feedback. I know that, when I put out a video every single day, I don't get as much feedback. The YouTube algorithm likes it when I put out a video every day. But in terms of, soliciting quality feedback, I think people who are watching every day, they might be thinking, well, he'll put out another one tomorrow. So I'll let this half-formed thought sort of simmer and see, if it applies to tomorrow's content. And maybe I'll comment then. And, whatever. If y'all stop commenting, I'll stop using these videos as a coping mechanism. I'll say this. One of the reasons I don't like having long periods of downtime at work is because everybody else in primary is sitting there looking at their phone and they are, intent. They're caught up in what's on their phone. For the last 2 years, the most important thing on my phone was WhatsApp, and it was, whatever new message was coming in from Rose or Casey. And I've moved the WhatsApp. I mean, the app is still on my phone, but I've moved the icon for it off the home screen so I don't see it. And no content ever comes in through that anymore. And I haven't, like, I hate Twitter. Fucking hate Twitter. So, Twitter sends me Twitter sends me a daily digest of things I've missed, but it's the stuff they pick is just stuff that is provocative, that's going to piss me off, and it's by people I don't follow. If I don't follow somebody Twitter, one, don't put their shit on my timeline, and two, fucking hell, don't send it to my Gmail. Fuck that. Particularly if it's stuff that's just designed to piss me off. So fuck Twitter. God, I fucking hate Twitter. I'm this close, and I've been this close on many occasions to deleting my account, and the only reason I don't is the same one that Stick Sexenhammer still has a Facebook account, and that's because I want there to be an official KMO account so nobody else can put out content and claim that it's mine. Not that anybody's scheming to do that right now, but you never know. So yeah, I will keep my piece of Twitter real estate. This is mine. But I avoid the site. I mean, for my own mental health and, really for my own character. Because getting caught up in that culture war bitterness and, contest of insults with strangers who represent different points of view, I mean, it's not only toxic to my ability to think and get along in the world, but it just feels gross. It feels dirty. It feels like it is degrading me as a moral being. So, yeah. Point being, mostly what I do with this phone is make videos to upload to YouTube. And when I pick up my phone, the first thing I do is I fire up the YouTube Studio app and I look for new comments. And I look to see how many, views a video's gotten, but they're all pretty much the same. Oh, speaking of which, I have been in the habit of when I put up a new video that's publicly available, I don't monetize it. You don't see any ads if you're one of the first 200 people to watch. But most of my videos get a little less than 200 views, and the ones that cross the 200 mark, maybe I don't see it when they do. And by the time I notice it, they've stopped accruing new views. So the new number is going to be 100. First 100 people to watch these videos get it ad-free, and thereafter there will be ads. So it goes. Not that I expect that, YouTube is going to become a significant source of income for me, but, a man can dream, can't he? All right. Thank you, you long-standing payers of attention. I will talk to you again quite soon. Take that to the bank.